Hello, welcome back to Looks Like Blood on the Balcony, or welcome if this is the first time you've listened. I just wanted to start off by saying a massive thank you to everybody that tuned in. Do you say tuned in? No, probably not. Thank you to everybody that listened to the podcast last week on Lucy Letby, Cradle of Cruelty. It did better than I expected, so thank you so much. Somehow I managed to get it onto Amazon, Spotify and Apple Music, so yeah, that was an achievement in itself, I think. But thank you so much to everybody that tuned in. I keep saying tuned in. I don't know why I'm saying that. I'm not 100, but not far off. Anyway, yeah, so thank you so much. This week we are going into a different realm of possibility. Is that even a sentence? But I'll take it. But yeah, thank you so much for listening. This week we are going into the paranormal side of life. Is it life after death? But yeah, so this week, if you enjoy paranormal stories, then you will have heard of this next place probably multiple times. It's a place that I'm absolutely dying to go. Have been for a few years. So this is on my bucket list. Well, I say bucket list. It's on the list of things to do. Hopefully next year. So it's about a council house in North London. It was an ordinary, unremarkable, just another house on just another street until 1977. Apparently in 1977 the house woke up. Furniture started flying, voices were growling, children were screaming, and we have witnesses, real witnesses who say they saw the impossible things. So this episode we are going to be looking at the Enfield Poltergeist. The Enfield why can't I say poltergeist? Oh, there we go, poltergeist. Try not to say it with a stupid voice. So the Enfield Poltergeist, which is one of Britain's most famous hauntings. So in episode 1, we looked at Britain's most notorious... Is it the right word to say notorious about Lucy Letby? Lucy Letby. She was Britain's most famous child killer, probably. And we're going to look at Britain's most famous haunting today. So buckle up. Let's have a look. Part 1. Green Street. It's August. Picture this. August 1977. We are in Enfield, North London. Peggy Hodgson lives at 284 Green Street. She's got 4 children. Margaret, who's 13, Janet, 11, Johnny, 10, and Billy, who is 7. Normal kids, completely normal kids. Well, what's a normal kid? But yeah, normal kids. Go to school, do their homework, they argue, they play, they fight. Typical British family home, what you would expect in the 70s, if you can picture that far back. Everything's normal. The kids are playing. Peggy's washing up. Well, I don't know if Peggy was washing up, but that's what I'm going to say. Peggy's doing a little bit of washing up. And yeah, normal night in Green Street. In Enfield. Suddenly Peggy stops washing up and she hears shuffling from the girls' bedroom. Heavy shuffling, not just kids moving around upstairs. I don't know if you guys who have got kids, you know what I mean when I say, when the kids are doing something wrong because it goes quiet. So she hears shuffling from the girls' bedroom, heavy shuffling. And the first thing she sees when she opens the door is the chest of drawers, the girl's chest of drawers, moving across the floor by itself. Weird, right? So she pushes it back. She pushes the chest of drawers back into the corner where it was. And lo and behold, the chest of drawers started to move again, as if somebody was standing and pushing against her. So she's having a bit of a tug-of-war in the girl's bedroom with the chest of drawers. She said it felt like as if it was somebody pushing against her that was invisible, like an invisible force that's behind the chest of drawers. She said it felt like it was being pulled along by a strong force. She tries to move it for the third time, but this time the chest of drawers will not budge. It's as if this force, rather than pushing it back to where it wanted it to go, was holding it in place. So terrified, this to me is what makes this story the most believable thing. Terrified, she grabs the kids and she runs to the neighbour's house. So yeah, that's what you're doing. You're not standing there like in these horror movies where you're like, oh, the drawers have stood, let's get a banana. You know, it's let's get the hell out of here, which would be my first instinct. Get hold of the kids, get the hubby, get the dog, get the cat, get the hell out of there. And I'm not going back. I'm sorry, I'm not until the next day, or until I've got an army of people with me. I'm not going back into that house. So she runs out of the house with the kids, leaves the chest of drawers. You crack on with that. And the Hodgson's neighbours, Vic and Peggy Nottingham, are the first people outside of the family to witness anything. So Vic goes into the house and she's like, this girl crazy. I don't know why she's got an American accent because she's in London. Vic goes into the house trying to be the brave one, trying to be like, you know, let's go and see what the hell's going on here. And she says she hears knocking. Clear as day. Knock, knock, knock. But nobody's there. The noise moves from the walls to the ceiling, behind furniture, inside cupboards. There's no source. She cannot see or hear or even fathom where this knocking is coming from. There's no pipes that are making any noises. There's no neighbours doing any DIY. Nothing makes any sense of where this noise is coming from. Now, knocks and things like that, to me, in the paranormal world, are not that much of a thing, because so many different things can make knocks. It's when, to me, with paranormal stuff, it's when you start asking questions. This is my own opinion. Like, it's not what everyone thinks, but you ask a question and you get a response to the question through knocking. That's when things, to me, start feeling a little bit weird. So you say something like, knock once if you're a boy, and then they knock twice for a good, you know, that kind of thing. So anyway, nothing, they can make sense of this situation at all. So the Nottinghams, the next door neighbours, tell Peggy to call the police. So she does. And what happens next in this story is one of the most famous moments in paranormal history. So this moment changed things for a lot of people. 2 officers arrive, PC Caroline Heaps and her colleague. They turn up to the knocking, and I don't know at this point whether or not she told them about the chest of drawers upstairs. I don't know about you, but if a chest of drawers was moving upstairs and then I thought I'll ring the police, they probably think I was a bit batty. Well, let's be honest, if you're saying that, people are going to think you're batshit crazy, aren't they? So anyway, the police arrive. Caroline Heaps and her colleague check everything. Doors all locked, windows all closed, upstairs empty. So they've checked these rooms and then they go into the living room. This is when something a little bit weird happens. PC Heaps watches a chair slide across the floor on its own. Now, when she was asked about this, she said it moved about 3 to 4 feet across the room. Now, that's like the height of a small child, maybe a 10, 11-year-old child, 4 feet across the room. You're not missing that. Like, you're not thinking, oh, did that move? Did that not move? You have seen that chair move. She said she checked the chair for wires to see if these people were taking the piss out of her. She checked the floors for magnets. She did all the checks that you would think, hang on a minute, this is a bit weird. Let's check, see if someone's like having a laugh. But there was nothing. So she filed this in her official police report. So she actually reported this as an official document. It wasn't gossip. It wasn't a ghost hunting show. this was a trained officer saying that she saw something that was impossible. But that was only the beginning, because the activity inside that house started to become more violent. So within days, strange noises start to fill the house. Loud knocking, scratching, sounds of heavy boots, doors opening and slamming, objects flying. Heavy boots is, I think, well, all of them actually, quite common in the paranormal world, but I've had my own experience of heavy boots. I was about 15 and I was at a house that I was at a family friend's house, and I was about 15. I was on MySpace and I was on the computer in the little alcove underneath the stairs, and as I sat there, all of a sudden I heard these boots walking across the landing. There was no one in, I was by myself, and that was pretty terrifying. Yes, I did run out of the house and ring my mum. So anyway, news travels quite fast about the house, and the Mirror newspaper gets involved. 2 reporters come, Douglas Bentz and Graham Morris, and they go into the house to investigate. Now, at first, nothing happens. They're a bit like, okay, time wasting, blah, blah, blah. Then suddenly, toys start flying across the room. Morris lifts his camera to try and get a photograph of the toys in the room. And at that moment, a Lego brick hits him in the forehead so hard, it leaves a cut. And he later said it was as if it came from nowhere and it was thrown with real force and meaning towards him. So at that was enough to convince them that something was in that house. So they contacted the oldest paranormal organisation in the UK and told them the story of the house. And that's when 2 ghost hunters or paranormal investigators get involved in the story. And now these names come up quite a lot in the story of the Poltergeist. And their names are Maurice Gross and Guy Lyon Playfair. So Maurice arrives first. He's calm, he's friendly, he's a logical guy, he's not a charlatan, he's not a fantasist. He's just a normal guy that's interested in the paranormal. And within days of him arriving at the house, he witnesses heavy furniture moving, objects flying, loud knocks, even voices calling his name. So at this point, the family are back in the house, and he even witnesses the children being thrown out of their beds. So you can imagine how terrifying furniture moving and loud knocks are, but then the children start to get involved and thrown out of their beds. So he decides he's going to set up recording equipment, and he records hundreds and hundreds of hours of tapes, and he becomes convinced that not only is there an energy or an entity in that house, something intelligent is haunting that house. There's something in there that is more than what they first thought. Then Guy joins him. He's originally a skeptic. I love when skeptics get involved and they're just like, yeah, there's no chance. Then something happens and they're like, whoa, what the hell was that? Like, what was she in? He spends weeks inside the house and he changes his mind. He said he was fighting something invisible and the invisible thing was winning. And at the centre of all of it was Janet. Janet was the 11-year-old, and she begins acting strangely. She goes into trances and she starts speaking in a deep, gravelly male voice. Now, this is a voice that claims to be a man called Bill Wilkins. So on the tapes that they had recorded, that the paranormal investigators had recorded, the voice said, "Just before I died, I went blind. Then I had a hemorrhage and I died in the chair downstairs." The investigators, being the investigators, found later that Bill Wilkins did die in the house, and he died exactly as the voice described. His son confirmed it. So Janet was saying things that Janet couldn't possibly have known, really, at 11 years old in 1977. Remember, this is 1977. There's no such thing as the internet. There's no phones. So how this girl would know this story is baffling, really. And Janet's voice was so deep and so unnatural that speech specialists were brought in, and they said it was impossible for an 11-year-old to maintain for so long this voice without damaging her throat. But that voice continued for months, sometimes mocking, sometimes aggressive, sometimes whispering things nobody else could know. Was it real? Was it a possession? Was it a psychological breakdown? Or a skilled hoax? No one could agree. No one could say, yeah, this girl is having us all on. No one could say she was possessed by the devil. It was just really mind-blowing what was happening, I suppose, if it was paranormal related. So yeah, this voice that Janet was doing was the voice of Bill Wilkins, that died in the house, that knew things that Janet wouldn't know. And people were still skeptical, don't get me wrong. Not everybody was saying, oh yeah, she's being possessed by Bill. But yeah, to die exactly how that voice described from an 11-year-old girl was insane. Absolutely insane. Was Janet being possessed by the poltergeist of Bill in the house? So some of the most interesting images from the case show Janet appearing to levitate from her bed. I will find these pictures and I'll put them on my Instagram so you can see what I'm talking about. The photos are very dramatic and it shows Janet mid-air, hair flying and her body stiff, which skeptics argue she was just jumping. It was just a big elaborate hoax. Janet was up, she was jumping, she was taking the mick. She said she wasn't jumping and it felt like she was being pulled. There are also reports of her curtains twisting tightly, bed shaking violently, Janet being dragged across the floor, objects appearing and disappearing, fires starting on their own, and voices coming from multiple rooms. The biggest debate of this was, if you remember at the beginning, I said there was a few kids in this house, and the biggest debate was whether or not these children were faking it. Were they, doing it for the attention? Mum had got some attention now because, they did manage to scare all these people. And Maurice Gross did admit that he did find the girls faking a few of the incidents, but he said it was only about 2%. So the other 98% of what was captured was real. So the girls were, fueling the fire, if you like. But, as a paranormal investigator, he did hold his hands up and say, yeah, some of it was fake. But, yeah, so, again, not everyone was convinced of these hauntings. Not everyone believed what was going on in the house. A lot of it was said to have been the kids seeking attention. It was a massive hoax. They were bored. There was chaos in the home. But the investigators said many events that happened in the house were impossible for children. Some of the things that were going on, especially the voices and Janet being possessed with the speech therapist and all that stuff, they were impossible for children to recreate. There was psychological stress in the house. The father had left the family, so dad had left. Kids, dads are a massive part of the kid's life for a majority of it, but dad had left. Janet took a lot of that responsibility, and maybe that trauma created her hysterical behaviour. But then, yeah, okay, but trauma doesn't move chairs or speak through walls or knock where police officers can't understand where the knocking is coming from and things like that. So that couldn't be explained by that. Janet did sleepwalk and she did enter trances, but 11-year-olds in a trance don't throw furniture. So the skeptics were being knocked back by the paranormal investigators. So there was also combined hysteria, so a suggestion that the family, press and investigators all fueled one another, but it doesn't explain what was happening before the media arrived. So this police report that was filed by Caroline was before all of the hysteria, before the paranormal investigators got involved, before the press were there. So that, yes, it's can be explained, but in the same respect, this police officer saw these things happen. These chest of drawers were moving, and it was all happening before. So a lot of people are trying to say that it kind of encouraged, like one thing encouraged another thing, which encouraged another thing, which everything then took a big turn into just mass hysteria. Basically, it's all a load of bollocks, and the family made it up. Now, I think with a lot of paranormal stuff, I can be sceptical sometimes. I can think, well, that's not real, that's made up. You know, I really want something to happen to me where there's no denying it. I read these stories, I get excited about these stories, I want to go to these places, but I want something to happen to me that's just undeniable paranormal evidence. But I did see some paranormal investigators that I watch quite a lot and that I really enjoy watching, and they said no matter the amount of evidence that you collect, the amount of things that you say, there's always going to be somebody that will say that's not real and try and debunk it, or they'll say you're crazy, or especially with video software now, you've edited that video, you've done this, you've done that. Not everybody's ever going to believe it, so make your own mind up. Don't listen to, listen to the skeptics, but at the same time, I want to believe that all this happened and it wasn't a big facade. I'd love to believe that this was true. So in 1979 then, the activity started to slow down, but it never fully went away, but it did fade. The children grew up and moved out, so they did stay in the house. Janet spent time in hospital due to stress, and she later said that the haunting ruined her childhood. So she said the house wasn't haunted all the time, but when it was, you knew it, you felt it. Mum stayed in the house until she died, and then the next family that moved in left within 2 months because they said they heard voices and footsteps. So it wasn't just that family that were experiencing things, and as soon as Peggy died, the people that moved in after Peggy said that these things happened as well, and they moved out. Now, I don't know, I'd like to say that I would be that person that would be like, no, I'm going to stay and I'm going to figure this out. But at the same time, if my kid's doing some weird fucking zombie voice, then I aren't staying in no house. Do you know what I mean? I'm gone. So, yeah, there was all these things that were going on. Like I say, I'll put the pictures on Instagram, so you can have a look at the pictures of Janet. If I can find them, I'm sure I'll be able to find them. I'll pop them on Instagram, and you can have a look at it for yourselves. Comment on them, let me know what you think. So the case remains one of the most debated hauntings ever recorded. There's arguments for it being real. Police witnessed the events, press witnessed the events, investigators recorded hundreds and hundreds of hours of activity and footage. The Bill Wilkins voice knew the real details of what had happened in his death that Janet couldn't have possibly known. Objects were moving with no visible cause. Janet was examined by doctors, but no explanation was found in those examinations. So there's things in this story that, regardless of whether you believe or not, they are unexplained. Like, why was Janet doing this voice? Why did she know all these details? And how these investigators recorded hundreds of hours of activity. Could they keep that up for that long? Like, if it was a hoax, would you be bothered to do it for hundreds of hours, or would you be like, yeah, we've got the fake bits now, let's go, sort of thing. But then some events were clearly faked, and some events were said by the children that we faked them, that was us. So they didn't really help their own cause if they wanted to prove that their house was haunted. Some of the photos could have been staged. Media pressure could encourage the exaggeration. So if you're getting a bit of attention from the media, are you going to be like, yeah, come on, let's make this a bit more exciting than it actually is? The children were under no stress. Mum stayed in the house. There's no video evidence of major events. So is it real? Is it not? I don't know. If these things were happening to my family, would I stay in that house? That's questionable. Would I? If I was faking it, I might stay. If I wasn't faking it, then would I stay and just see? You don't know, do you, until you're in that situation, I suppose. But then no explanation fits everything. None of the skeptic theories explain all of the events. So the theories that these skeptics are coming up with can't be there was no explanation for everything basically, and none of the paranormal explanations can be proven. So there's a wall down the middle. You either believe or you don't, I suppose. So the Enfield poltergeist case sits in this grey area, somewhere between belief and disbelief, truth and illusion, trauma and terror, that kind of thing. And maybe that's why it's still so popular. Maybe that's why so many people still want to go to the house. And maybe that's why it still haunts us. Maybe that's why there's still that, actually, is that a real picture? Actually, was she doing this voice? Actually, did the police officer... do you know what I mean? So... yeah, so what really happened at 284 Green Street? Did a grieving spirit return? Was it Bill? Was it Bill stuck in his house? Did the children manifest the energy because of a broken home? Was the whole thing a hoax? Or did something cross over just for a moment and make itself known? Whatever you believe, the Enfield poltergeist remains one of Britain's most chilling mysteries. You can go to the house, you can do like sleepovers and stuff, haunted nights, haunted events, things like that. You can actually go and do investigations for yourselves. Plenty of videos on YouTube of things happening where people have caught loads and also where people have caught nothing. So, yeah, figure it out for yourself, have a look, check out Instagram. If you've got any stories that you'd like me to cover, anything that you'd like to discuss, would you like me to go into more detail about the Enfield poltergeist, let me know. But thank you for listening again to episode 2 of Blood on the Balcony. Next week we're getting even darker with unsolved disappearances that still terrifies investigators today. So until then, lock your doors, keep your lights low, and remember, some houses don't forget, some houses don't forgive, and some houses are never empty.